Yes, here and here. So whoever gets to the mic fastest. There we go.
Hi, I'm just curious, when you put together your strategies for training and development programs, do you have something already set in stone, what you want to offer employees, or do you take some type of assessment from the employees telling you what they want, what they're looking for?
Well, at the Cleveland Foundation, they actually allow us to, like for our tuition reimbursement, to take what we want and then reimburse for that, as well as any other training. And then there's specific areas. But one other thing I think is really important, that when employers look at training, that whoever you bring in has to know who the audience is. Because you can have training and people walk away, which we've all been to, and at the end of the day, it doesn't do anything. So I think it has to be value added that intersects with what you're trying to accomplish. And then for the person doing the training, the individual, you also need to know your strengths as well as your challenges, to know what it is you need to do to get to the next step. I think that's really important. So within the Cleveland Foundation, it's pretty flexible in terms of our learning. For instance, we have a communications consultant that will come in and work with us whenever we ask, that they have on retainer to work with staff on presentations, speaking engagements, when we have really big things that we're working on, or either just like our initiative, how do we go out to the public and let them know in a clear, concise manner what it is we're doing, because it's not always easy to explain. So I think it has to be flexible and diverse to meet the needs of the different employees.
Question in the back? What were you going to add?
Well,
go ahead.
At the Cleveland Clinic, I mentioned we have this Center for Leadership and Learning and the Cleveland Clinic Academy. There's some training that you're going to have every year. It's going to be ongoing for personal development and career enhancement development. Then there's some training that you tie to strategic initiatives that you budget, and the organization expect you to get that training in, such as servant leadership or patient experience. Those are new things for us, so we set our budget up from a strategic standpoint because those are enterprise-wide touching initiatives. But then these other things that are ongoing from a personal development, frontline leadership development style, you kind of upgrade those a little bit, but they just change a little bit year to year. So it depends on what you're trying to do from an enterprise-wide standpoint or what you're trying to do to further give your employees the advantage from a cutting-edge standpoint.
Thank you. The back?
Hello. Lately, I've been, for the last few years, working with graduate students at some of the local colleges. And what I've seen is fewer and fewer American or local students coming in the pipelines, a lot of international. Does anyone have any programs or any initiatives whereby they're looking at the grooming of our local talent and again to address keeping the local talent here in terms of education?
There's a lot of activity in town focused on internship programs and how do we sort of do a better job with that. And I think there are a lot of, the hardest part, internship programs, especially for small businesses, is how do you effectively use those folks. So there's some energy getting together right now to look at how do we better deploy interns, not only at large companies, but at small companies. But, it's just trying to find the opportunities. And, right now with, we talked about technology earlier, we have 2 kids that we put on scholarship from University of Akron, full tuition scholarship. I spent less money for that than I did to hire 1 employee in marketing, and they're driving our social media strategy. And they're loving it, and they're kicking butt, and they're teaching us all about this stuff. So we got to find ways to encourage folks to get, involved. I don't know how you get them into graduate education, but just finding ways to find opportunities they can really contribute to is important.
The Cleveland Foundation has an intern program for graduate students, college students every year. And I think the applications come out in January. We just finished with 16, and we actually deployed them into other nonprofit organizations around Cleveland. But there's a whole training, development, leadership piece that they get during the summer. In addition to working in the organization, there's a lot of follow-up. They have skills training. We bring speakers in to talk to them about, what is it like? What is your experience? And so they learn from an HR perspective as well as talking to Ron Richard, our CEO, and others about what do you have to do to continue to grow. And some of them actually have been hired by the organizations, and then some go on to graduate school.
One other thing I'd add to this is that probably our greatest problem in the greater Cleveland area for not being able to retain talent starts with where we send our students to college. We have some of the most premier higher education institutions of anywhere in the country, but somehow we think outside of here is better. And as parents, we have to think about strategies for the future in our old age. Where do we want our kids to be and their children? And we need to look at the value of some of the premier colleges within a 2-hour radius of right here in Northeast Ohio, because where I go to school is where I'm likely to settle after college. The second thing is that we all have to be better PR people about opportunities. One of the opportunities I have is to be in a community of folks who always are giving their opinions, and yet 90% of them are not in the world of work. They're privileged people. And they're always telling me there's no opportunity for their children, and so their children are all going away. And so we perpetuate a rumor about opportunity in our region. There's a lot of opportunity in greater Cleveland, and we need to match it. The other thing that you talk about, because we have premier programs in engineering and technology and other areas, foreign nations understand that the future of the economy is in people who can invent things, create things, and make them work through technology. We as a nation have fallen far behind, and so they're not only making an emphasis of that in their own education systems internationally, but they're sending their students to the U.S. to get the advantage of ours. And so if you look at the classroom, in some of those classes, 70% of the students are foreign-born. We should figure out how we're going to get those people not to go back home, because our future depends on people who have those skills. So we got to get our children to major in engineering and science and those kinds of activities, and we've also got to get people to stay who come and use our education system. So I just want to add that because it's another thing we can do.